Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the Nonprofit Podcast.
Welcome to every listener out there. This is Special Edition Ukraine, Nonprofits Under Fire.
You just heard the voice of Sandra Curry is my co-host for this season. And today's episode, we'll be looking at Ukraine, as we will this entire season. And it is in a crosshairs of an unprovoked attack from Russia. And Sandra is there in Ukraine talking to and finding out what's happening within the nonprofit world and in the aftermath of each of these attacks from Russia. This particular podcast is brought to us by Demystifying Fundraising Funnels. It is a blueprint that is going to help you fund your nonprofit using digital marketing tools. It is a book that was written especially for the small and mid-sized nonprofits saying, David, we are needing to shift and we don't understand the language or the tools available for us to be able to start communicating, fundraising, connecting to our community using online resources. And so this is allowing you in the language of nonprofit to be able to build the first several tiers of your online communication and fundraising. So get that book today. It's available wherever books are sold, including Target, Amazon, Audible, and wherever else you just might look. Sandra has a unique story, and I am so happy that she is able to join me for this season. So Sandra, I want to just dive right in and let's talk about you and kind of your background. You have come over onto the Polish side of the border because there's been some logistics you're needing to do with Joshua House, and you and your husband Colton just crossed the border. What are your plans in the next couple of weeks?
So we crossed the border like 3 weeks ago, but now we're planning actually to come back to Ukraine, to be with the family. It's actually safe where we usually live. It's up in the mountains, so we're gonna go and stay with our family there and have a baby there. So that's kind of our plans for now.
Baby in a war zone. Wow. You are very brave, I have to say. And I know part of the reason is how much you love not only your country and the people around you, but you have a lot of brothers and sisters in those mountains and in the surrounding area, Lviv, that you grew up with.
Actually, a lot of them I'm really close to, so and spending some time with them, I think it will really help both of us, during the war zone, sticking with each other and being there for each other, supporting each other. Yeah.
Wow. So can I talk to you a little bit about why you have so many, several hundred brothers and sisters?
Yes. Yes, sure.
Let's wind this back because this goes into some of the context of who we're interviewing today. We're going to be interviewing Jim and Sandy McCann, which you interviewed them this last week, and we're going to be dropping that interview into this conversation. But they are really your mom and your dad, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that journey started for you? How old were you when you first met them?
They actually adopted me whenever I was 3.5 years old. I had no family. My parents abused me, so I didn't live with my parents at all. And I lived with my grandpa at the time, but he was getting old and weak, and he didn't have any strength to take care of me and my brother. I actually have a brother. And so they took me in and they gave me a home and they gave me a family that I never had.
That's beautiful. And it wasn't just you. Can you tell me a little bit about, when you came into that family and you started being raised in this house, what was that like? Because suddenly, boom, you have another brother, another sister.
Yeah, there was so many kids. So I was always really frightened of everybody because I was introvert a little bit. Whenever I was a kid, I was afraid to come up to anybody and to talk to anybody. But just whenever I came in and they really showed me love and support, it kind of like just, melts your heart.
Now, I met you on your first trip to the United States. You mentioned this earlier. I think you were 7 years old. Is that right?
Yes.
So at 7, you come to America for the first time. What was that like? Do you have many memories of that trip?
Yes, actually, my first time to United States, I went to Disneyland. That was one of
Wow.
the best memories. Yeah, as a kid, everything just looks like a fantasy to you whenever you come to Disneyland. So yeah, it was amazing. I had we went to some churches, and ministered there. So that was really an amazing opportunity, getting to know different people and helping them out.
So that was a season that I was in San Diego, and I knew I got to go to the beach with you and two of your sisters that came with you, and
Yes.
I think it was Oksana was one of those, right?
No, it was actually Krista and Zira.
Oh, very good. It must have been the next visit over that I met Oksana. So you guys came to, and we got to go to the beach. Was that the first time you ever been to a beach, or had you been to a beach there in Ukraine as
I've
well?
I've there's no beaches in Ukraine actually. We don't
Well,
have
I'm thinking
beach.
Odessa over on that side, that,
Um, we don't really call it a beach.
oh, okay.
It, yeah, but
That's fair. I've never been there, so I'm gonna take your word for it.
yes. So actually, going with you to the beach for the first time in your family, yeah, it was my first time going to the beach and enjoying it. I
Yeah.
never been to the beach before.
No, it was a lot of fun because my children are the same age as you and your sisters when you came over. So that was really a great time. I have some great memories. Still got a lot of pictures of that time from when you were over there.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a lot of pictures too.
so a few years later, I found myself in Ukraine with a group of music teachers, and we were doing our school of music.
Mhm.
That was so neat to have you as one of our students.
Yeah, I know it was hard for me back then, to focus on stuff like, specific instruments, but you helped out a lot, with being a teacher you were.
I enjoyed the trip. It was such an experience, and getting to meet not just all the children that were in the homes, but also the neighbors. Kids were coming by as well as others. Can you tell me a little bit about what Lviv is like as a city? You've spent well pretty much your whole life in and about and around there. Can you tell
Mhm.
me about the city as you've grown up? Because if Russia starts bombing Lviv like it's done Kiev and the other cities, it won't look the same afterwards.
Yeah. I've been to I basically was raised in Lviv, but Lviv is such a pretty city, so welcoming. The people there are super welcoming, and the city itself is so pretty. Our center and the streets, it kind of just feels like home when you walk, through the city, especially like if you made memories on this city, and on this street, and you just walk by it, you're like, oh, I did this here, and this there, and it kind of brings you, warmth to your heart. It's Lviv is just a city of warmth for me. It always felt like home, and it always will feel like home, no matter
Mm.
what Russia does to it.
Uh, it is home is home. It's true. I understand that. When I was there, my second trip in 2014, I got to take my son Judah with me, as well as other teachers, and it was a really um, impactful time because I didn't get a chance not just to be with the children, but the last few days we were in Lviv, and
Hmm.
it was the first time I got to be a tourist, as you could say. So I got to walk through, and I got to see this beautiful building. It was, I think, the Symphony or Opera House that's downtown,
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's Opera
that
House.
building has been there longer than Moscow has been a city. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Just
it is crazy. There's even a little river that runs under it.
there's a
So
river running under that building.
yes, you can go actually underneath, and they have like glass, and you can walk on it, and you can see the river flowing under the city.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea. I didn't get to do that. Um, the one of your older sisters was our interpreter on that trip. Trying to remember her
Hmm.
name.
Zirka?
Um, Zerka. Yeah, she was amazing. And we had a lot of fun her taking us through the city and taking us
Yeah.
into all the different parts of that downtown area. And
Hmm.
it was so beautiful and so rich, and the people were so friendly. It
Yeah.
was an amazing time. But it felt like sometimes like I was in a Disneyland kind of experience, where they have all these really nice restaurants and stuff, and you're walking through there, and you're like, oh my goodness, like I'm walking through a road that people were walking on 1,000 years ago, and
Hmm.
I'm looking at stores that, even though they look really modern and beautiful and have modern names to those restaurants, those buildings were there, before America was even a country.
Yeah, Lviv is really historical, just from all the buildings, and like we have a Times Square, like we call it Times Square back in Lviv, but it's really historical, from all the sculptures we have there and all the amazing buildings.
The amount of traffic starting to come through Lviv, because it's only like really it's the last standing city in Ukraine that is not under
Mhm.
complete bombardment right now and not trying
Yeah.
to be leveled. You're getting a lot of refugees coming through there from multiple cities, and I was hearing a story from Samaritan's Purse where they have a hospital just on the outside of the center, emergency hospital, that
Mhm.
they're having so many come in that are wounded from Kiev
Yeah.
into that hospital and the surrounding area. Mostly civilians, almost all of them civilians that homes were shelled while they were in the homes or in the basements, and the thousands and thousands of refugees coming through there. This is where your family, and now you're actually on staff with Joshua House, your
Mhm.
organization, your nonprofit, is really coming into play. What are some of the things you think over the next several weeks Joshua House is really going to be doing to help in this area?
So we are focusing on helping out more families, rescuing more moms that have kids or they're pregnant. We even have like little babies right now in one of our shelters, So we're trying to focus on getting more and more kids and families to us that they will be in safety. And definitely we're focusing on getting more uh like supplies to Ukraine where we at, because it's really hard right now to get supplies. Everything stores are buying out. It's really hard right now. So we're definitely focusing on getting more supplies and helping out more families, rescuing some kids,
Yeah.
helping
Yeah.
them out.
Well, you're certainly in a perfect position between the homes that you have and your infrastructure you have. Being part of that infrastructure where you've been, I know you've came to the States for education. That's where you met your husband. And
Yeah.
now you're back helping as part of the team at Joshua House and being on our podcast and having a baby and being in a war zone. It sounds like your life is very exciting.
It actually is, like it's only first year of marriage, but it's already so many things are happening, like uh, a war with Russia suddenly happened, and
Yeah,
we had so many plans, and then war happened, and then we're doing this podcast, and we're having a baby in 2 weeks, So it's at the same time it's exciting, because that's what gets you stronger, later on in life. That's what keeps you together, But at the same time,
absolutely. Do you ever feel later in life might be a little boring than the way you guys started off?
no, I don't think it will get ever boring, I think life just gets more exciting over the years.
Oh, I love your optimism. No, that's really good. So each week we'll be interviewing incredibly brave and heroic nonprofit volunteers, leaders in Ukraine. And this week we are going to be talking to Jim and Sandy, who are on the ground working with the crying, the hurting, the lost, the broken, finding them not just shelter, but also comfort, warmth, clothes, food. And they're filling up their homes with those that are the walking detritus of war. Russia has come and is bombing cities and bombing neighborhoods. In fact, almost everyone coming their direction are civilians that have been bombed out of their homes by Russia. They've lost their husbands, they've lost their children. And Sandra got a chance to sit down and talk to them in this very candid interview. I really hope you enjoy it. And if you have any questions concerning this interview or about Jim and Sandra, please put them in the comment section, or you can email us or contact us directly through their website at joshuahousecares.org. Anyway, here we go. Hold on. And this is the interview. Sandra with Jim and Sandy McCann of Joshua House Life Centers.
Hey guys, so today I get the chance to interview Sandy McCann. She is one of the founders of Joshua House, and they have done so much great work back in Ukraine, helping orphans, feeding the poor, and a lot of other really amazing stuff. And but I'm gonna ask you, how are you doing? How are you feeling about this interview?
I'm tired and I'm nervous because I'm not usually the one that talks in front of people. So I'll do my best. I'm not good at thinking on my feet either. So, well, everyone gets to see me the way I am.
You lived in Ukraine for
29 years.
Yeah, for almost 30 years, let's say, and this conflict started in 2014 with Ukraine and Russia. And what are your thoughts on it? Did you expect things to get where they are right now?
Absolutely not. This is so much more involved than what we expected. I remember when we heard about the Russian troops surrounding the borders of Ukraine. Well, actually, they did once, and then supposedly they were withdrawing troops. But, we knew, well, this is not the end of it. This is just the beginning. So we knew they were going to come back. And really, we did expect war. We just didn't know how far it would go, what it would involve, how long it would be. We thought that if they attack, the whole country could be demolished and taken over by them in about 3 days. So we were trying to prepare ourselves for this potential attack, but not knowing how long it's going to take, how involved. We did believe it would be mostly concentrated in the East. That's where they have done most of their invasions in the past. So we didn't expect that Russia would attack as many cities in the West as they have, to the extent that they have. And even in Lviv, they've obviously been trying to attack Lviv also, but because it's so close to the Polish border, and we have armies along the Polish border that are counterattacking and taking out those missiles before they're able to hit anything in Lviv. So more or less Lviv is safe so far, at least in comparison with the East. But some other things we didn't expect were the great support that we have from the neighboring countries and from all over the world. People are really rallying behind Ukraine and supporting them. There's a lot of prayer support going on, which we're so excited about. It really lifts up our spirits and encourages us to continue. And it's so evident, and we see answers to prayers being happening all the time. And so that is a big support. And then financially, so many people in Western countries are sending support, and people are rallying together and networking to help these millions of refugees trying to escape the East, either into Western Ukraine or across the borders. And it's really exciting to see that.
Hey guys, today I get a chance to interview Jim McCann. He's one of the founders of Joshua House. Not long ago, you went to US, right, for memorial service?
Yes.
And the war broke out right whenever you were back in US. So why did you decide to come back, come out of the safety zone all the way to Ukraine?
Well, we had some of our leaders ask us that same question right before we left, because we knew in our hearts we needed to come back. And they said, well, you need to ask yourself the question, is your life worth more alive or dead, if need be, to help the people? And it was difficult because you want to live to help people, but sacrifice, that old-fashioned word, when you sacrifice for the sake of love, for the sake of others, God has a way of resounding that even if you die. And there's so many people willing to die right now in Ukraine. The other reason is my wife and I, as you have heard, have raised many children, adopted children, and we adopted them in our hearts. We also adopted Ukraine in our hearts. We are American citizens. We haven't denounced our citizenship. We love America. We love what America stands for in the Constitution and the Statute of Liberty. But the Ukrainian people, we adopted in our hearts, and God taught us, if you want to heal the brokenhearted, you need to live with them. So we also have many children and many grandchildren there, and then all the children we have helped over all the years.
With the connections you have back in Ukraine at this time, like how bad things really gotten, right? Maybe next to where you live, or the places you're familiar with.
Well, we've actually been all over Ukraine. My wife and I, we've traveled all over the East, and we've been to Kyiv, and we know people there and have worked with people in Kyiv. We've worked with people across the nation, mainly to help children and the poorest of the poor, because they had no voice.
Yeah.
And so we took in orphans, we took in the abused, the abandoned. Now, as we see what's happening, it's daunting, it's overwhelming. And we realize once more that this is going to require, you got to put your whole focus and life into it.
You, as a ministry, of course, you help people. And how many families have you already helped, in a war situation? Maybe you can tell us what they're going through.
Yes. We quit counting. We used to count because we kept the kids. We didn't start an orphanage. We had a family. We became actual mom and dad to the children. And that's what healed them. They knew they had a mom and dad, and it was permanent. And their children became our grandchildren to this day. So we have a big, large family. But now there's a river of people, and it's nonstop. And they don't, the mothers and the children, they've lost their fathers. They've lost their siblings. If they're men, they're staying to fight. From every area in Ukraine, every city and region, they're leaving their husbands, they're leaving their children, their sons or their grandsons to fight. And many times there's women, and they're young and they're taking up arms. So families are being separated, and now there's a river of so many people you cannot count. So what we're doing is we're taking in children into our life centers, which we have several, and we have areas where there are safe zones, if you could say that if Ukraine had a safe zone, because now every area in the East and West has been bombed at least, and others have the ground troops. So right now, we take them in, and then as they are ready to leave, we evacuate them to the various countries surrounding Ukraine.
We are amazed to see how much the Ukrainians have stood up, and they're willing to fight, and they're willing to sacrifice to save the freedom that they have in Ukraine, the freedom that they gained just like 31 years ago. They don't want to give that up. They want to save that, and they are willing to die to save their country and to save their freedom. And so this war that could have happened it could have gone for just 3 days is being prolonged because the Ukrainians have a will to fight. They're not going to give up easily. And even if Russia takes over the capital of Kiev and tries to take over the government, Ukrainians will not accept it, because they are a hard people. And they're used to surviving, and they're used to fighting and doing whatever they need to survive and to have the things that they need and the values that they hold dear. So they're not giving up.
Do you think, is there anything that you guys, both of you guys, left out that you want to address to our audience?
I'm just so thankful for the response
Yes.
of
Yes.
the world in general,
Mhm.
how they're rallying behind Ukraine and supporting them,
That's right.
and just everyone doing their part, what they're able to do. I mean, it's just remarkable, and we're very thankful.
And if I just want to say to the audience, I don't know who's listening, but history is being written right now. There's video now. There's internet. There's social platforms. There's this young lady who's interviewing us, and she is so much younger than us. The next generation, she's already taken up the baton. You have gifts to give. It's time for us to bring our gifts to bear. It's time for us to fan them into flame. And the opportunity is being given to every individual and nation, and the whole world is watching. The whole world is glued to television, to news, and they're watching what we do. Just think of how good you feel when you hear of a family, one family that we rescued in particular, and it was done by the help of others that you will never meet. From the East, we called them one morning, and there was a family of 4 children, Sandra, 4 children and a wife, and they were there in the East, in the town that is now decimated, blown apart, and they were asking for a rescue. We called them in the morning, and they had to tell me, wait. They went down to the basement because bombs were going off. Paratroopers were falling from the sky, tanks were shooting, and they had a little 1-year-old and 3 other children, and they're being terrified, and they're asking for a rescue. It took for that family to get out of that place because the rescue plan kept being foiled because they would bomb the next day and the next day, and there was no transportation. Nobody could get in. We got them out. Now they're traveling down the road, and the people that were helping us knew how to do what they were doing. And we got them to a neighboring country that took them in. Everybody was rescued in spite of the insurmountable odds that it was too late for them. They stayed too long. They should have got out. They got out. And now they're in another country somewhere in Europe, and they're alive, and they're the kind of people that we need still that are willing to help others.
Joshua House is needing you to team up with them. Even on their website, they're saying how you're their hero, and it wouldn't be possible without you, what they're doing right now. So you can go to the website, joshuahousecares.org.
In the news this last week, or the world saw this theater, children and women in it hiding from bombs going off in their neighborhoods and in their towns around them. And in the front and the back, with big letters, easy to be seen from the sky, says children. And this was a known place. And what did Russia do? It dropped a bomb right in the middle of it on purpose, trying to create terror and fear. And out of it comes something beautiful. Italy has said as soon as Ukrainians win the war, they're going to rebuild that theater as a memorial to those people that died there. And, out of the worst of humanity, some beautiful things are being seen. So let's talk about some of the amazing nonprofits that are stepping in to the world of war and doing their very best to help. Sandra, you want to go first? Let's talk about a couple of ones that we know that are right there in your area.
Samaritan's Purse,
Oh, I love them.
They set out an emergency hospital center right outside of Lviv. It's on a Western Ukrainian, and one of their first patients was a woman. She was trying to escape from Kiev while there was bombing, and she got really severely injured, and she came to them, and they helped her out. It's just, it's really encouraging to see people and nonprofits who are ready to help other people, So if you would like to, you can visit them at SamaritansPurse.org.
I love the group called Team Rubicon. Team Rubicon, their organization, including physicians, they've been mostly in Poland, but now they are on both sides. And if you go to their website, teamrubiconusa.org, you start seeing how they are supplying help and medical help right to the front lines on Ukraine's side. And volunteers are coming over and helping in the medical area, in the search and rescue, when buildings are bombed. How do they go in and find the civilians that are in the basements of those buildings? And so Team Rubicon is an amazing nonprofit, and I love what they're doing. So check them out as well, and give them a thumbs up. Let them know that you're proud of what they're doing as a nonprofit.
It is actually an amazing list of nonprofits who are helping out Ukraine.
Over the next several weeks, we're going to be talking about more and more of these nonprofits and getting to talk to some of their leaders, some of the people on the ground in each of those cities. Sandra is going to be going in and talking to them one-on-one, or I'll be talking to them over Zoom as well. And I can't wait to bring those stories to you. So stick with us over these next 12 weeks. And each of these 30-minute episodes, you're going to find some amazing stories that are going to encourage you about what's beautiful in humanity, because the contrast is horrible. And we're going to see both. There's a very famous quote that says, where evil abounds, grace so much more abounds. And we're seeing the grace rise up, the beauty rise up in the world around Ukraine. And we're going to brag about those people doing that. So stick with us next week when we send you another episode on Thursday. Sandra, it's been so good talking with you.
To you too, David, and to all of you out there who's listening, thank you so much for being with us today. Without you, there wouldn't be this podcast.
That's absolutely right. You take care. Be safe and keep loving your communities. Bye now.